Ladies and gentlemen, today I want to share a crucial truth, one that can transform the way you see the world and protect your very soul. Sometimes, the greatest battles we face are not against visible enemies, but against unseen forces working tirelessly to derail our purpose and peace. When we begin to explore the depths of human relationships and the unseen forces that influence our lives, we must first recognize that life is not merely a series of random events or simple interactions. Behind every encounter, every word spoken, and every decision made, there exists a spiritual dimension that often goes unnoticed. The reality is that there are forces at work, forces of good and evil, that shape our experiences in ways we may not immediately see. These forces are not always obvious. They often operate behind the scenes, disguised as human flaws or circumstances. It is crucial, then, to develop a keen awareness of the spiritual battles that surround us, because understanding this reality is the first step toward living a victorious life. Many people go through life unaware that they are under attack, not just physically or emotionally, but spiritually. They accept negativity, toxicity, and destructive behaviors as mere personality flaws or bad luck. But what if I told you that some of these influences are more sinister? They are deliberate attempts to sabotage your destiny. Recognizing that some people may be tools of darkness rather than innocent victims of their circumstances is vital. It's about seeing beyond the surface and understanding that some influences are orchestrated by unseen forces that seek to diminish your potential, steal your joy, and derail your purpose. This understanding shifts your perspective. It invites you to see the world through a spiritual lens where every relationship and encounter holds significance. When you realize that not all negative behaviors stem from ignorance or hardship alone, but sometimes from deliberate spiritual deception, you become more alert and discerning. You begin to understand that the battles you face are not only against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers operating in the unseen realm. This awareness empowers you to respond differently, to protect your heart and mind, and to stand firm in your purpose. Now, let's delve deeper into this concept. When we talk about spiritual warfare, it's important to understand that it manifests in many forms: deception, manipulation, division, and destruction. These tactics are often subtle and insidious, creeping into our relationships, disguised as concern, love, or friendship. The enemy's strategy is to appear harmless, even beneficial, while quietly undermining your confidence, your peace, and your progress. The key is to develop a spiritual perception that can see through these disguises. This perception is not just about being suspicious or paranoid. It's about cultivating a heightened awareness that enables you to differentiate between what is genuine and what is malevolent. One of the most dangerous aspects of this deception is manipulation. Manipulation is a form of spiritual control that causes you to doubt yourself, to question your worth, or to accept mistreatment as normal. It's a tactic used by malevolent influences to keep you in a cycle of confusion, fear, and dependence. When someone consistently twists your words, undermines your confidence, or isolates you from others who could help you grow, it's a sign that you may be dealing with a spiritual force intent on your destruction. Recognizing this is empowering because it gives you the clarity to set boundaries, to walk away from toxic influences, and to protect your spiritual integrity. In many cases, these influences operate through false appearances. They can come across as caring friends, supportive family members, or even mentors who seem to have your best interests at heart. But beneath the surface, their motives may be driven by jealousy, envy, or an intent to control. They plant seeds of doubt or spread falsehoods that slowly erode your confidence and sense of worth. Over time, their words and actions create confusion and division, making you question your purpose and your connection to your true identity. This is why discernment becomes a vital skill. It's about tuning in to your spiritual senses, listening beyond words, and observing patterns over time. When you develop this discernment, you can see who is genuinely for you and who is working against you. Many of us have experienced relationships that drain our energy, sap our joy, or cause us to question everything we believe about ourselves. These toxic relationships are not accidental. They are often orchestrated by malevolent forces aiming to weaken your spirit. They are designed to keep you in a state of dependency, bitterness, or frustration. Recognizing these signs early can save you from years of unnecessary pain and suffering. It's about understanding that some influences are not accidental, but deliberate attacks meant to derail your spiritual progress. The truth is, spiritual warfare is real, and it is happening all around us. But the good news is that you have been given authority and power to stand against these forces. When you understand that some influences are not just human flaws, but strategic attacks from unseen enemies, you gain the ability to resist, to stand firm, and to walk in victory. Developing this awareness is essential for anyone who desires to live a life of purpose and fulfillment. It empowers you to take responsibility for your spiritual health, to discern the truth from the false, and to walk confidently in your divine destiny. The first step in this journey is to recognize the signs that someone in your life might be more than just human. When you see patterns of manipulation, deception, or division, when you notice that certain relationships consistently drain your energy or cause confusion, you are observing the work of a spiritual influence. These signs are not coincidences, they are symptoms of a deeper spiritual attack. The more aware you become, the better equipped you are to respond wisely, to set boundaries, and to protect yourself from further harm. Understanding that some influences are spiritual in nature changes everything. It shifts your perspective from blaming people for their flaws to seeing them as vessels or tools of darkness. This awareness doesn't make people evil, but it reveals the spiritual reality behind their actions. It reminds you that your battle is not against flesh and blood, but against spiritual forces that seek to destroy your purpose. Recognizing this truth transforms your approach to relationships and challenges. Instead of reacting out of frustration or anger, you respond with wisdom, prayer, and discernment. The first two signs, recognition of spiritual warfare and understanding manipulation and deception, are foundational to your spiritual journey. They open your eyes to the reality that influences your life and equip you to respond with spiritual authority. When you understand that some influences are not just human flaws, but strategic tools of darkness, you gain the power to walk in victory, to protect your heart, and to surround yourself with influences that uplift and empower you. The journey is ongoing, and each new insight brings you closer to living a life that is truly free, purposeful, and victorious. One of the most subtle yet destructive tactics used by forces of darkness is the art of deception. Deception is not merely about telling a lie. It's about distorting truth in a way that makes what is false appear as genuine, believable, and even necessary. The enemy's plan is to create a fog of confusion, so thick that you cannot see what is real anymore. When deception takes root in your life, it begins to distort your perception of people, situations, and even your own identity. The danger lies in the fact that deception often comes packaged in a beautiful, attractive, and appealing appearance, making it difficult to discern its true nature until it's too late. Think about how deception operates in everyday life. It often disguises itself as concern, wisdom, or even love. Someone who is genuinely caring may appear to be helpful, but beneath that facade may lie manipulation and control. They might give you advice that sounds good on the surface, but secretly, it's designed to steer you away from your purpose or to make you dependent on them. When you are deceived, you tend to accept things as they are, assuming that what is presented to you is the full truth. But that's the trap. Deception is a master of disguise, and it preys on your trust, your innocence, and your desire for connection. The challenge is that deception is often incremental. It starts small with little lies or half-truths, and gradually builds until the lie becomes the accepted reality. That's why discernment is so critical. You must develop the spiritual sensitivity to recognize when something doesn't add up, when the words or actions of someone don't align with their true motives. This is not about suspicion, it's about spiritual perception. When you are spiritually alert, You can see beneath the surface and recognize when someone's intentions are not pure. You begin to notice inconsistencies, contradictions, and patterns that reveal hidden agendas. Deception also works through manipulation, another weapon used by malevolent forces to control and enslave. Manipulation is subtle but powerful. It's about twisting circumstances, words, and feelings to serve the agenda of the deceiver. Sometimes you may find yourself doing things you never thought you would, just to keep peace or avoid conflict. You may dismiss your own intuition or convictions because someone has convinced you that their way is best, even when deep down you know it's wrong. Manipulation feeds on your desire for acceptance, love, and approval. It plays on your fears and insecurities, convincing you that you need their approval to be complete. Many people live under the spell of manipulation without even realizing it. They accept mistreatment, tolerate lies, or endure emotional abuse because they believe it's normal or because they fear confrontation. But the truth is, when you are manipulated, you're being controlled by a spirit of deception that seeks to diminish your worth and your sense of independence. Recognizing manipulation as a spiritual attack allows you to stand firm and say, "No more." It empowers you to set boundaries, walk away from toxic influences, and reclaim your power. This is where the importance of discernment becomes vividly clear. Discernment is more than just intuition. It's a spiritual skill that sharpens your ability to distinguish between what is genuine and what is false. Developing discernment requires consistent spiritual practice, prayer, meditation, reflection, and a desire to seek the truth. When you cultivate discernment, you are not easily fooled by appearances. You begin to see the motives behind words and actions. You notice patterns and inconsistencies that reveal the true nature of those around you. Deception and manipulation are often used to isolate you. When someone seeks to control your relationships or surround you with negativity, they are working to cut you off from sources of strength and wisdom. Isolation makes you vulnerable because it robs you of community, counsel, and accountability. It's easier for deception to thrive when you are alone and disconnected from the support systems that can help you see the truth. That's why building relationships with wise, spiritually mature people is so vital. They can help you see deception for what it is and guide you back to clarity and truth. The key is to develop a spiritual radar, an inner sensitivity that alerts you when something is not right. This radar is activated through consistent spiritual discipline and a hunger for truth. When you are alert, you begin to see the subtle signs of deception, words that don't match actions, promises that are never fulfilled, or people whose motives are hidden behind a veneer of friendliness. You start to notice a pattern of control, guilt-tripping, or guilt-shaming that signals spiritual manipulation. Once you recognize these signs, you can confront them with wisdom, set healthy boundaries, and protect yourself from further harm. Many of us have been deceived in relationships, careers, or even in our beliefs because we ignored these subtle signs. We wanted to trust, to believe in the goodness of others, but deception often operates in the shadows. It whispers lies that sound like truth, lulling us into complacency. But the moment you recognize that deception is at work, your perspective shifts. You realize that what you are dealing with is not simply human error, but a spiritual attack. This awareness gives you the strength to act differently, to pray, to seek divine guidance, and to refuse to accept falsehood as reality. Deception is a tool that works to rob you of your clarity, your confidence, and your purpose. It works by convincing you that what is false is true, and what is true is false. That's why developing discernment is so critical, so that you can see through the falsehood and walk in the truth. When you understand that deception is a spiritual attack, you no longer react out of fear or confusion, but respond with wisdom and authority. You begin to see the lies for what they are, imposters designed to derail your destiny, and you reject them with conviction. Recognizing deception and manipulation is not just about self-protection. It's about reclaiming your spiritual authority. When you see through the lies, you take back control of your mind, your heart, and your life. You refuse to be a pawn in someone else's game or a victim of unseen forces that seek to destroy your purpose. This awareness is empowering because it shifts your approach from reacting to circumstances to proactively standing your ground. It's about being awake, alert, and spiritually prepared for the battles that are constantly happening around and within us. In the end, it is your spiritual discernment that will keep you free from the snares of deception and manipulation. It's a skill that must be cultivated daily through prayer, study of the truth, and a humble heart willing to see reality as it is. When you develop this discernment, you are no longer easily deceived because you see beyond the surface. You understand that deception is a spiritual weapon, but you also recognize that your spiritual authority is greater. You can confront lies, expose hidden agendas, and walk confidently in truth. Your life becomes a testimony of victory over the schemes of darkness because you are equipped with the knowledge and power to discern what is real from what is false. The battle is real, but so is your authority. When you understand the tactics of deception and manipulation, you gain the wisdom to protect yourself and others. You become a beacon of truth in a world filled with falsehoods. Your life becomes a testament that truth, when rooted in the divine, will always outshine the darkness. Develop your spiritual senses, sharpen your discernment, and walk in the freedom that truth provides. Because once you see the deception, you will never be the same again. You will stand taller, walk wiser, and live with a clarity that no lie can distort. The truth is your armor, and discernment is your shield. When you wear them daily, you become invincible against the subtle schemes of unseen enemies. In the journey of life, one of the most profound truths we must grasp is that our words are not just sounds or mere expressions, they are the very fabric of our destiny. Words are powerful. They possess the capacity to build or destroy, to uplift or to diminish, to open doors or to close them forever. Every word you speak, whether aloud or within your heart, carries energy. It carries intention. And it carries the potential to shape your future. The thing about words is that their power is not always immediately visible, but they are always at work. They are seeds planted in the soil of your mind and spirit, and they will eventually bear fruit. If you understand this, you begin to realize that you hold in your mouth a tool of creation, an instrument capable of sculpting your reality. Words have the power to create worlds. When you speak words of faith, hope, and encouragement, you are laying down pathways for divine promotion, for divine favor. When you declare your purpose with conviction, you activate spiritual laws that attract opportunities, resources, and relationships aligned with your destiny. Conversely, words of doubt, fear, and negativity can be like weeds that choke out the seeds of greatness you are trying to plant. Negative words are not just harmless expressions, they are spiritual seeds that grow into barriers, limiting beliefs, and destructive habits. That's why it's essential to guard your tongue and watch over your heart, because what you speak inwardly and outwardly sets the course for your life. The challenge is that many people underestimate the influence of their words. They speak casually without awareness of the spiritual consequences. But every word spoken in faith or fear is a declaration of your inner state, your belief system, and your level of trust in divine power. If you want to change your circumstances, you must first change what you say about your circumstances. If you want to elevate your life, you need to elevate your words. Because words are the building blocks of your future, and they shape your reality more than you realize. When you speak words of life, you are planting seeds of hope and strength. When you speak words of death, whether through doubt, criticism, or hopelessness, you are planting seeds of destruction. Now, it's crucial to understand that your words do not exist in isolation. They are connected to your thoughts, your beliefs, and your faith. When your thoughts are aligned with your purpose and your beliefs are rooted in divine truth, your words become powerful declarations of faith. They become creative expressions of what you believe is possible. But if your thoughts are filled with fear or limitation, your words will reflect that negativity. That's why the renewal of the mind is so vital. You must learn to guard your thoughts because they precede your words. Your words are the overflow of your heart. And if your heart is filled with doubt, your words will mirror that doubt. To harness the power of words, You must become intentional about what you say. Don't speak out of frustration or anger. Speak out of faith and hope. Make declarations that align with your divine purpose. Speak life over your health, over your finances, over your relationships, and over your destiny. When you encounter obstacles, instead of complaining or cursing your circumstances, declare triumph, victory, and provision. Words of faith have the power to activate divine intervention. They are like keys that unlock the doors of opportunity and blessings that have been prepared for you. When you speak with authority and conviction, you are not merely communicating, you are creating. The words you speak also influence others. Your words can be a source of inspiration, encouragement, and hope in a world that desperately needs truth and life. When you speak positively, you become a catalyst for change in your environment. Your words can uplift the fallen, strengthen the weak, and ignite the fire of purpose in others. Remember, words are contagious. They spread and influence entire communities. That's why it's essential to speak words that uplift, inspire, and empower. You have the power to shape culture and to influence the atmosphere around you through the words you choose. But words are not only about what you say to others, they are also about what you say to yourself. Self-talk is one of the most powerful forms of speech. The way you speak to yourself sets the tone for your self-esteem, confidence, and belief in your potential. If you constantly tell yourself that you're not good enough, that you're too old or too young, or that the situation is hopeless, you are reinforcing limitations that may not even exist. Conversely, if you speak words of affirmation, acknowledging your worth and your divine potential, you are reinforcing your ability to succeed. The language you use internally shapes your mindset and ultimately determines your actions and outcomes. The truth is, words are a form of spiritual currency. They have the power to attract or repel, to build or tear down, to establish or undermine your destiny. When you speak words aligned with divine truth, you activate spiritual laws that work in your favor. When you speak words of faith and gratitude, you attract divine favor and provision. When you speak words of doubt and unbelief, you create barriers that hinder your progress. That's why it's essential to be deliberate with your words, to speak with purpose, and to speak in agreement with divine promises over your life. The practice of speaking life-giving words requires discipline. It requires a daily commitment to speak truth and faith, regardless of circumstances. It means replacing negative, limiting language with positive, empowering declarations. It means affirming your identity as a divine creation, designed for purpose and equipped with the power of divine authority. It's about understanding that your words are not just sounds. They are spiritual seeds that will grow into your reality. When you consistently speak words of life, you are planting a garden of abundance, health, and success that will flourish over time. In the realm of the spirit, your words are like arrows. They can pierce through barriers, break chains, and release divine power. When you release your words in faith, you are releasing divine energy that sets in motion the fulfillment of your destiny. This is why many successful people, those who have overcome adversity and achieved greatness, have learned the importance of speaking their victory before it manifests physically. They have understood that faith-filled words are the bridge between where they are and where they want to go. Developing mastery over your words also means speaking at the right time and in the right manner. There is a season for everything, and words must be spoken with wisdom. Sometimes silence is the best response, especially when words of anger or revenge threaten to derail your peace. Other times, your words have the power to carve out new pathways and open new doors. Learning when to speak and when to remain silent is a skill that comes from spiritual maturity and divine wisdom. You must also recognize the importance of spoken blessings. Blessings are not just religious rituals, they are powerful declarations of favor and divine purpose. When you bless others, whether with your words or your actions, you activate a spiritual flow of goodness and divine energy that benefits everyone involved. Words of blessing create an atmosphere of abundance and positivity. They release divine favor and attract divine intervention into your life and the lives of those around you. The power of words is so profound that it can even influence the spiritual atmosphere of entire communities. When leaders, influencers, and individuals speak words of hope and faith, they create a climate where miracles can happen. Conversely, negative words and curses can create an environment of despair, defeat, and stagnation. That's why it's essential to recognize the responsibility that comes with speech. Your words are not only about personal achievement, but also about impacting the world around you. As you cultivate the habit of speaking life, you begin to see a transformation not only in your circumstances, but also in your character. You become more positive, more hopeful, and more focused on possibilities rather than limitations. Your words shape your attitude and your outlook determines your actions. When you speak words of faith and hope, you position yourself to receive divine favor and to walk in the fullness of your purpose. Your words become prophetic declarations that align you with divine destiny. Remember, you are a creator by divine design. Your words have the power to create, to shift, and to establish your future. When you speak with faith, you are activating the spiritual laws that govern the universe. When you speak words of life, you are partnering with divine power to bring about transformation. Your words are not just sounds. They are the divine instruments of your destiny. Use them wisely. Speak purposefully. Declare boldly. Because your words will determine the course of your life and the legacy you leave behind.